Hello, this is Katie O'Regan. I'm here with an amazingly talented gentleman. His name is Corey Brunish for Featured Friday Filmmakers. This is our very first Featured Friday Filmmaker of 2025, and I wanted to kick it off with quite the talent. Corey, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for doing this for us. How are you
It's
today?
my pleasure. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So you've been all over doing being a Renaissance man. You come to us with uh, a musician, an actor, a singer, a producer, a husband, a father, and a man of the world. So I want to let everyone know to begin with that this is a Tony Award winning, Grammy nominated dude. And I was looking at your background because I asked you to do this interview, and I'm like, gosh, I bet he doesn't brag about himself at all. I bet you don't. You do funny Facebook posts. I know that.
Yeah, distract them with laughter. That's the key.
Is that the key? You think so?
Yeah.
So, out of all of what you tell us a little bit about yourself, can I ask you first about your Tony Awards? I mean, I'm going to read a little bit from Wikipedia for everyone, but tell us how many Tony Awards that you won.
So far, the number is 5.
That's right. So far. I love that you said so far. Yeah, I can see that so far. I think you have quite a few more on the road coming in. That's for sure. Can I just read this a little bit? Brunish has received 16 consecutive nominations in 12 seasons and 5 Tony Awards. In 2012, he received a Tony as producer for Porgy and Bess, which won Best Musical Revival. In 2013, Brunish received a second Tony Award as a producer of the revival of Pippin. He also was the recipient of the 2013 Drama Desk Award, Drama League Award, and the Outer Critics Circle. This is amazing. I'm gonna read a little bit more about what's your amazing career. In 2017, he was awarded Tony Awards from Come From Away. Come From Away is my very favorite musical I've ever seen on Broadway.
Me too.
You too. I mean, unbelievable. I saw it in Ireland. I saw it originally on Broadway, and I also saw it in Portland.
Good for you.
And I know you, yeah. So tell us about your position in Come From Away. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, a producer can come on before the show is mounted. It can come on during a reading or a regional or even during previews on Broadway. A producer can join the producing team.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular case, we happened to be on the West Coast. We saw the show, and I literally begged to join the producing team because
wow.
I felt like this was something special, which it turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a producer, all you really have is your gut. I don't choose a project because I think, oh, this is going to make money or this is going to win awards. I choose a project because I relate to it, and I feel other people will too. I look for something that will heal and uplift and inform and inspire. And if you don't feel better leaving the theater than when you went in, we haven't done our job. I mean, if you're going to invest the time and the money, we better give you something invaluable. Now, in London, they hooked up an entire audience to heart monitors, and they found that when they watch musical theater, their heartbeats synchronize. The entire audience's heart is beating as one. Now, that's something that you can't get when you're sitting at home streaming a movie.
That's right.
So it's truly a communal experience, and it's not just you relating to the stage. It's you relating to the stage, relating to your fellow audience. It's a triangle. And so you're learning about each other. You're learning what's funny, what's not funny. You're learning what's shocking. It's really taking the temperature of your friends, family, peers, neighbors. It's a remarkable thing, and that's why we do it. Now, some producers are checkbook producers and some producers are creative producers. I like to think of myself as the latter. There is input, there are notes, there are changes, there are, perhaps we make suggestions about any aspect of the production in order to make it better. And the reason those ideas are listened to because who are we? We're just producers, is because there's so much money on the table. You know,
Right.
used to be able to do a musical for 15 million. Now it's 25 million. A play used to be 3, now it's 8. And so sorry about that, but that's the way it is. Of course, a loaf of bread has gone up in price too, so it's not really our fault. Anyway, and so the producer is a valuable team member, and we try to do our best to, again, make it the best it can possibly be.
And you do amazing work. I mean, and the choices that you choose, the shows that you choose um, to be a part of. I love what you said about it. You choose them from your gut, and they have to be something that heals and something that means something. I mean, the slave play, you have a producing credit from that. I mean, what a remarkable piece of work. I understand from this that the slave play, the show, holds the record for the most Tony Award nominations in history for a play, 12 nominations, and you're a part of that. So you're like, that's why I had to talk to you. I'm like, I have to talk to this guy. You have like your ear and your nose and your heart on the pulse of Broadway. Not just Broadway, but also you're also a documentary producer and you're a musician. And so I feel like you're one of the guys that is helping usher in our new time on Broadway, for live entertainment to help heal. Says everything. I mean, you went through everything and with COVID, and tell me more about your experience going through on Broadway when COVID hit.
Well, it was devastating. We lost 18 months of being able to practice our craft.
Yeah,
And,
right.
it was just, I mean, it impacted the entire world. Broadway is just one part of it, but
Mhm.
yeah. And even when we came back, there were mask mandates for the cast and the audience. And
Yeah.
so there was a healing process there. And I remember going to a performance of Wicked, which was the reopening after the shutdown.
Hmm.
And the audience was so delirious and ecstatic to be there, to experience the show once again, that they stopped the show multiple times with standing ovations just out of
Oh,
delirious delight. And the show ran 15 minutes longer because,
oh, I love that. I love that.
yeah.
That's amazing. The power of the play. You know, I lived in New York for a long time. I'm going back again this year, and I first come from a musical theater background, even though I just finished a feature film. So I'm a person who has been to many, many, many Broadway plays. I grew up in a little Iowa farm where I am right now in Iowa. But I've been a fan of people who work and do what you do my entire life. And so I come to this interview audience, for those people who are listening, a well-educated interviewer about who this guy is. Okay. um, Broadway doesn't happen with people uh, that don't do the things that Corey does. Hal Binkley was a dear friend of mine. Yeah, the wonderful Hal Binkley, Tony Award winning lighting designer. I knew him for years and years, and he's in heaven now. Or he would tell you he's not in heaven right now. But I know he let Come From Away, uh, and along with many other. Did you know Hal very well?
No, we crossed paths with a lot of the cast and a lot of the, of course, creative team,
Yeah.
but in that particular case, we did not run into each other.
Oh,
It's rare for a producer to be in the room during rehearsals.
yeah, that makes sense. I get you.
Done
Hmm.
it 3 times that I can think of where I was there for almost every rehearsal, and that was a life-altering experience and a very valuable one. Um,
Hmm.
and I enjoyed it immensely. But the creatives, the lights, the sound, the sets, the props, the costumes, the makeup, the
Hmm.
choreographer, these are the lifeblood of the show. I mean, obviously the
Yeah.
cast that's doing the work, they have to show up 8 times a week, which is incredible. But those creatives make that package, and they
Hmm.
make that Broadway legend happen. And that is, as Hal Prince like to say, you take a black box and you
Yeah.
fill it, and it depends on what you fill it with as to whether you're going to make something entrancing for the audience to experience for a couple of hours. And so we really rely on those creatives. They are so important. They're the DNA of Broadway.
They are. I would agree with you. So tell me about your work. You have so much to talk about. I can't even pick one to start. Tell me about your work as a musician. I know you're nominated for a Grammy Award in 2012 as the producer of the theater album Snapshots by Stephen Schwartz, released on Broadway Records. Tell us about that.
Well, I came to music early, in grade school, and they've proven that not only is music therapeutic, but it is critical to brain development and creative thinking and just logical thinking, and music vibrates not just our ears, but every cell of our body is vibrated by music, and
Mhm.
that's why we long for it. And it, we don't love it because of the way it sounds. We love it because of the way it makes us feel.
Right.
I get goosebumps when I hear a score that happens to speak to me directly. And it's just such an important part of what we do. Music is magic. It really is.
Music is magic. And you come from it. So you grew up what do you play? You play guitar? I know you're a singer.
Yeah, a singer, guitar, a little bit of drums. I was a trumpet player. I played in every possible part of the high school. I was in the marching band, the stage band, the symphony orchestra. I was in the madrigal singers. We did everything. We sang all over town. It was the most out of body experiences I've ever had have been playing in an orchestra when the music just was overwhelming, and singing in a chorus where you just feel like one being making
Yes.
this incredible sound, and you just sort of lose yourself and you just become a part of this thing. I know it sounds esoteric, but it's true.
It's very true. Well, you're speaking to my language. I that's how I my company's called Sacred Noise Society, my nonprofit organization. So what you just said is all about who I am. Our internal creative voice. It's it's our sacred noise, I always say, speaks for us before we speak.
Yes.
Um and 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 when you're standing on stage and you get to perform for this beautiful audience, and they see you and they hear you, we absolutely are one. We were talking about what it feels like to be in the room of a production, and we in the study in London, which I also read, where their hearts beat at the same time. It's absolutely the truth. If anyone that with the kind of experience of seeing live performance can to attest to that. And even though we went a lot to film. I know I did because of COVID, because we had to. Uh, I did a play on off Broadway called Good Morning Miss America that I produced and directed um, in 2019, and then I decided to make a film out of it, which is now called Give 'Em Hell, Honey. Um, yeah, you'll have to watch it. I just released it. It's coming out. I'll send you a link to it.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, absolutely. But the difference between and I'm in it as well. I play the lead character called Jane Nelson. But the difference, so people ask me if I like doing the play better than doing the movie. And of course I said I like doing the play better because of what we're talking about. Now, it's nice to have the movie in the can. You can go back to it. It's easier. Um, but there's nothing like having the audience, who I consider part of the play, in front of you. And
Yep.
so I think I think the shutdown did us a great service as entertainers, because it made us really realize, oh, sometimes we don't get to do this. Oh, okay. So, I love that you're a Renaissance man and that you do what you do. It's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to ask you something. Are you going to get up on stage on Broadway and act?
Well, I've done a couple of readings,
Yeah.
equity readings, and worked with some of the best actors on Broadway. And
Oh yeah.
it, if we had raised the money for either of those shows, I would have likely gone with the show to Broadway. So it might happen. In the meantime, producing it takes up a lot of time. I direct regionally. I do an occasional independent film here and there's.
Yeah.
So, you never lose that. It's always a part and parcel of the same creative entity. You're an actor, a director, a producer, a writer, a singer, all of these things, you know, and the other thing that's kind of interesting, perhaps, another one of my careers was as a real estate property developer, which means I took old buildings and rehabilitated them and made them into retail spaces anew, even though they were vintage buildings. And
So
so,
cool. In Portland, right? Is that right?
yes, very good. Yes. And
Did my
to
homework. Right.
to do that, I don't do all the work myself, but I do a lot of it. And by learning each craft, carpentry, electrical, plumbing, tile, windows, doors, roofing, gutters, downspouts, paint, concrete work, masonry, air conditioning, landscaping. By learning each one of those crafts, I know whether the person is doing their job right and whether they're charging me a fair price. It's the same thing in theater. In my education, I have personally engaged in the execution of sets, props, costume, makeup, light, sound, choreography. I've done box office, concessions, ushering, stage managing, set crew, PR, stage, theater photography. I've done all those things. And so by having that personal library of experiences, when you go into Broadway, you understand what it entails and what's probably good and what's probably not good. Because you've been there.
Right.
How hard it is and how hard it isn't.
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you for saying that, because I know you mentioned that the creatives are the bone, of the show, and they're the ones that bring it all together. And I completely agree with you. In addition, the people that sweep the floors and the electricians and the box office and, you know, I come from an Iowa farm with 6 brothers. So,
Sorry about that.
thank you, Corey. Thank you. I'm going to send this to my brothers. Yeah, no sisters, right? So I had the great privilege to learn how to work very hard as a kid, and now how to build and how to be a member of a team on a farm. And that where I'm sitting right now, I renovated this old 1865 farmhouse, right? And it was terrible when I got it, right? So I'm on your team with that. And plus, I mean, what you get to learn from doing
Yep.
that process.
Yep. There's a new study out that says, the most successful people in life are the ones who had chores as children, because they learn the gratification of a job well done and the rewards that come from that. And so, yes, tasks and completion thereof are incredibly satisfying and nurturing and
So okay, so were you not born and raised in LA, or were you born and raised in LA?
So
You lived there
started in LA,
Yeah.
then due to my dad's PhD work, we lived in Brussels and Denmark and Virginia, and then back to LA. And
Cool.
then as an adult, I moved to Oregon, and then finally New York, and now Tennessee. Yeah.
Nice. Well, you'll get a kick out of my movie Give 'Em Hell Honey, because we shot it in LA and in Portland and New York.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and some in Iowa, right where I am actually. So
So you got around.
Yeah, we shot in 12 different locations.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, it was one of those things. But what I'm talking about with you is you keep doing it, and you do so many different things. And when I see what I look like, when I see your media and what you're doing, you seem to really genuinely enjoy what you do. And I believe you. I can look at people, I'm sure you're very intuitive. I'm very intuitive. I read for people. I can look at people and say if they like what they do or not. It's my gift. I'm bad at a lot of things, but my gift is I'm terrible at a lot of things. Okay, but I really am. I can't. It's unbelievable. But the thing that I'm good at is I can see through people, and I can see what people's talents are and their gifts. And some people's talents are so bright and shiny. I just have to tell them. I'm like, look at what you do, and it's fun for me to like to see you and talk to you and go, look at what you do,
Hmm.
because not everybody acknowledges how hard you have to work to do what you do. I see what you do, and I'm here to tell you, I hope you keep doing it for a long time. And,
Thank you.
yeah, and spread the word to other people like you, because for all the things that can go wrong in doing what you do, producing, they usually don't, which is shocking, right? It's shocking that you can put these big productions up.
It's remarkable that anything ever reaches the stage.
It's honest to God. Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many moving pieces.
It is magic. And no, I've never seen any show go up. I've directed 60 shows regionally and on and off, and I've done a lot of children's work, which I love to work with kids in the theater. I just love it. Um, but people never think the show's gonna work right before the week before. They're like, "Oh my God, it's never gonna work." Except with the producers and the directors, they're like, "Yeah, it's gonna work." If you have, well, like you, when you've had enough experience doing it, you can tell if it's gonna work right now, right? Do you
Pretty
know?
much. Pretty much. Yep. Again, instinct and gut, that's all we've got. And speaking of children's theater, the best production of Annie I've ever seen, the most moving, touching, wonderful production was literally a children's theater production because the kids are so committed.
Oh, I know. They just break your heart.
They do.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that. Did you see the one with Whoopi Goldberg that's currently running on Broadway?
I did. It was quite moving.
Is that the one you're talking about? That production?
No, no,
That's
no.
the children, literally the children's production that you're saying. I got you.
Yes, that one was also moving though. I was surprised. I was delighted because
Yeah,
again, there's a commitment there.
yeah, children's theater. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've had I've like I said, I've directed 60 shows and I probably 35 musicals with kids. Um, yeah, and I just love it because and they're professionals. I'm like, listen, I tell the children, I'm saying, listen, if you're working with me, you're professional. And they totally rise to the occasion. They're like, no, we're professionals. And and they really rise to the occasion. I believe that about children. I mean, I really in my heart believe that well, first of all, we're all children inside and we all have that absolute capability. But sometimes, we tell our kids that, because they're this age and because they have this problem or this, behavioral issue that they're not capable of being on stage, and then they go up and they kill people. And
Yeah.
it never surprises me ever, ever. I mean, I think that's the way we really need to get theater back in the schools.
Oh, yes, desperately.
It's
It's just as important as sports, people.
right. Well, I grew up with this amazing theater producer who got all the sports guys in the shows. So I grew up where Music Man is from, Northeast Iowa. That's what made Music Man from. And didn't you do an album of Music Man? Or
Yes, indeed, with Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster.
oh my God. Oh, those no names. That's amazing. I forgot about that. With Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster. Wow. They must have had a great time working with you.
I think they did. I happened to write some liner notes for the CD and we had a good time.
So tell me, pardon my ignorance on this. Tell me what liner notes means. Do you mean the line? Tell me what that means.
So there's a booklet, and in there
The CD, yeah.
they have the credits, who's in it, who's in the orchestra, and sometimes they print the lyrics, and sometimes they print a synopsis of the plot, and sometimes they have an essay or two about the process. And so I happened to be at the recording session, so I wrote an essay about the recording session.
Oh, cool. How fun was that?
Yeah, that was my second time. My first liner notes were on Bonnie and Clyde,
Yeah.
which is a very popular show among the devotees of that show. And
Yes.
it was a childhood dream come true, because actually growing up listening to LPs, I would pore over the liner notes on the back of the cover. And to be able to live that dream of writing notes myself was very fulfilling.
That's very fulfilling. You come from your doctorate dad's research background. You have his brain, it looks like.
I hope so.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So do you know Diane Paulus?
Yes.
Tony Award-winning Diane Paulus?
Yeah.
Who I love and adore. I got to work with her as an actress, 25 years ago before anyone. Can I brag about something? I'm gonna brag about something. It's not about me being an actress, but I got to work. She cast me as the lead actress in a touring company. Long before anyone knew her, what a Tony Award-winning sensation she is. But I looked at her one day and I said, this is like in 1993. We were doing a tour of an Ibsen play. And I looked at her, I said, Diane, you're going to go to New York and you're going to be you're going to win so many Tony Awards as a director. And she looked at me and she had tears in her eyes. And I said, I'm not guessing.
I'm predicting.
I'm predicting. And of all the people that I've ever done readings for, or, had predictions from, I'm just a gal, but I believe in our hearts and our intuition and our sacred noise. And I knew it when I looked at her. And, here she is. How many Tony Awards has Diane Paulus won?
At least two.
At least two. But you won more Tony Awards. I just wanted to point that out. And she's fabulous. She went for hair. And she's just phenomenal. Anyone who's listening, please, Google Diane Paulus too, to see who she is. And also Google Corey Brunish to see who he is. I'll put a link in when I put up for featured Friday Filmmaker. I'll put a link to your Wikipedia and whatever else you want. So what are you working on right now that makes your heart sing?
Well, we're bringing in a show from London called Operation Mincemeat, which is the true story of an incident that took place in World War II.
Oh, wow.
It won the Olivier, and we're bringing that over. And I currently have Our Town playing. I have Cabaret playing. I'm also looking at the new Bobby Darin bio musical called Just in Time. And I'm looking at several other shows. There are about 111 shows circling the airport right now that are waiting for a spot on Broadway. There's only
on Broadway.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So can you repeat that again for people who are listening to this? Because that airplane one more time for people and explain it to me. I understand what you're saying, but my theater friends will want to hear this.
Well, there are about 111 shows in development waiting for real estate, basically. There are only 41 venues on Broadway, and about 7 of them have what I call perma shows that are running and running and running. And so that reduces the inventory down to 34 venues, and about 30 new shows open every season. That's about right. And some of them are limited runs. They're not meant to run more than 4 to 6 months. And so there's turnover, but 111 shows are trying to get to Broadway.
Wow,
and
yeah.
It's a process. And maybe they'll go regionally first. Maybe they'll do London first. Maybe Netflix will buy them instead. You don't know what's going to happen, but generally the best show wins and gets to Broadway and gets a chance to capture our hearts.
Do you have a prediction what's your next? Okay, so you're producing a cabaret currently running
Right.
in our town currently running. I have to get to when I'm on my way next month to see. I'm gonna go see both of those. I'm gonna see cabaret again. Can't wait to see that again. And our town, your production of it. Very excited about that too. Very cool. Do you have a prediction? What's your who's gonna win the best musical this year?
I generally don't do predictions, only because it's kind of pointless. The 800
Yeah,
voters of the Tonys,
they decide. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they have their own minds. But the other thing is we're only halfway through the season. 50% of the shows open January onward.
Yeah.
They tend to, fall is a great season to open because people are clamoring for new material, but spring is a great season to open because you're fresh in the minds of the voters. As you go into the June ceremony, you want to open in spring to be new and exciting.
Well, to your point, it's uh, and predicting who's going to win best musical and the best musical doesn't really matter when you're seeing. I mean, honestly, it doesn't in the realm of things. The best musical who wins the Tony, it doesn't mean really what the best play, of course, is at all.
Correct. Interestingly enough, a show like Wicked, which is now in its third decade on Broadway, did
Right.
not win the Tony.
I know. I remember, and I was there opening for that. And also for Rent, everyone said I was there like a week when Rent was on Broadway, when Jonathan was still alive. I saw it the week before, and
Wow.
everyone I knew, yeah, got to see him perform before he, for those who don't know, left this planet right when it started. And everyone I knew was like, "Oh my God, that's never gonna make it." I'm like, "You guys are insane." Rent, So who knows, right? Who are we to? The slave play, going back to the slave play, a lot of people, they were like, "Oh, that will never work either." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that'll never work." So, well, you're like an encyclopedia of Broadway. I feel like just got a master class from you on what it's like to produce on Broadway, and I could talk to you all day about, and I'll have to talk to you again about what you're doing, and if if any I can help in any possible way, or if you ever do a kids production, you need, and it wouldn't be great to do an actual kids production and bring it to Broadway where the kids actually were like the producers and the people who did it, and you have that beautiful little daughter of yours. How old is she? Does she love musical theater too?
She does. She
Oh,
even takes a musical theater class. She's 5 years old.
she's adorable. That's
Thank
so
you.
beautiful wife. She's in a musical theater class. Good. Yeah. Well, she's on her way. She's on her way. It's so very, very exciting to talk to you. Hopefully we can do a part 2 or 3 of what you're doing. There's so many people that work so hard, as you know, as actors and directors regionally, and unprofessional theater, who would just love to hear what you have to say about your journey. I always tell people, your journey, it's a path. It hasn't been a straight path, but you started and you're a builder and you keep building and you use your gut. That's like, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. It's been a great chat.
It has been a great chat. We're going to post it on Facebook and we're going to put it on my website, Sacred Noise Society, as our featured Friday filmmaker. And I hope you have the best day ever and the best New Year's. And thank you for being our very first guest of honor on our featured Friday filmmaker this year.
And may 2025 be the greatest year yet.
Yay. Yeah, that's right. Amen. All right. I'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful day. Thank you again.
As well. Ciao. You're welcome.